Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Reverse Sweep. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, Chris, aka Parasite.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
And the other, Pat, aka Slaya, aka ACHES. How we doing?
Good, man. Good. How about you?
Good. Excited to talk about some Call of Duty. First off, though, I do want to take a quick moment to shout out all our audio listeners. If you guys didn't know, this podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and there's quite a few people that actually just toss it on, maybe in their car ride or whatever. So shout out to you guys that are listening on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you didn't know, now you know. As for the giveaway, I think we're closing in on about 300 subs away from our next giveaway. And so make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. We're back every week. We have one more episode before the major, and then we'll have Doug back for the major episode. But yeah, let's get on with what we're talking about today. We're going to, similar format to last time, we're going to chat about a couple things going on in the league right now, and then get into some more spicy questions later in the episode, because I know you guys really liked that kind of segment last week. So let's just start out hot. Is OpTic Gaming the favorite to win Major 4 at the moment?
I'll take this one before Pat starts hating. I'm not gonna jump the gun and say yes. I still think they have I think another match coming up, which I think they probably will win. But they look like they are in form. I think strength of schedule plays a big part in it. They've taken out the LA Thieves, who are the other team that I feel like has been playing really well this split. And they beat who else did they beat? New
York.
New York.
Yeah,
New York. Yeah. So those guys have also been touted as a pretty top team. Outside of that, we know how they usually play against FaZe, which they've managed to do now many of times. I still think the question is, can they do this consistently, and can they do it against a team like Ultra? Ultra has been struggling, though. So that is where I feel like maybe they have an advantage here with them not playing so well. So do I think they're the favorites? It's looking likely that they're going to be able to at least put on another strong performance at the event. I am shocked with predicting winners nowadays. I feel like it's so hard to predict the event winners. Pat has now done it a couple times. That guy's a absolute maniac. So I'm interested to see what you have to say about this statement, Pat.
honestly, I don't think there's any favorites right now. I think there's like 3 to 4 teams that we could, if they show up, could win this event. And I think it's, your typical Thieves, OpTic, FaZe, and of course Ultra, who just won. It wouldn't surprise me if any one of those 4 come to Columbus and win. I've not yet made a prediction on who I think is going to win. Right now, I think it's pretty even, and it's really going to depend about who shows up, because I feel like all the teams now, especially, are really, really even, and all kind of have their similar flaws. Again, though, if FaZe managed to win hardpoints, I don't know how you can ever bet against them. The worrisome part is definitely Toronto's fall off after winning. I think it's unlikely that they repeat, because not only is Kleenex fallen off a little bit, but Hixie has fallen off drastically, in my opinion. So, I'm going to say right now I'm an even split between those 4.
Now, do you think any team specifically are going to benefit, maybe not entire teams, but players benefit or be at a disadvantage playing with no fans? Does that play any role in how this major is going to go, where maybe certain teams rise to the occasion, and there's a little bit less nerves?
See, I always have been a person that, like, the fans and stuff like that, at least for me, it doesn't really make that big a deal. Sure, it might elevate a team that might be kind of struggling to maybe try to play a little bit higher, but when it comes to the top teams, do I really think it makes a difference? No. If a team is, let's say, struggling and they go to their home major, then sure, I could see that actually, benefiting them, because they have so much positive energy. But if a team's already performing well online, well, there's no fans. So they're probably, unless something else exterior wise is not really helping them, they're going to perform well at LAN too. I mean, it's just the way things are nowadays with how, at least online, is a little bit closer to LAN, right? We don't play on true LAN online. We play on the same server, a league server. They do the same thing nowadays. They equalize pings. Like, I think online to LAN outside of I think is basically the same outside of exterior things. Like maybe somebody's more comfortable just being at home, right? Being in a comfortable environment that they're used to. But at the top of the end of the league, I don't see that helping any of these teams right now.
The only thing I would say is, and it kind of goes back to when we played these league matches in Columbus back in the day. It's it's kind of hard to get as excited for the matches when it's not a real environment with fans there. I don't think any players are going to play worse or better or anything like that, but it is kind of just a different mentality, right? When you're walking into a venue, you're seeing the massive setup, thousands of fans versus walking into, I think they're at the Belong Arenas venue again, which is
I feel
a little.
It'll feel my bad, Pat, to cut you up, but I feel like it'll feel like a league match.
Yeah, I think so too. So it'll be interesting for sure, but I do think there is kind of a mentality shift there where it's you're not as hyped up. Honestly, as sad as it is to say, it's hard to get as hyped up for the tournament.
I feel like this event more than the last, the teams you see doing well online will probably do well on LAN on this event, just because the environment is essentially the same. There's no crowd. It's just super comfortable. It's like you're at a local. It's just no stress.
Yeah.
You just show up and just fry. But yeah,
I think we're staying across the street too. You're just waking up, walking across the street into an empty venue,
bro,
playing your match and going back.
I actually fucked with the arena, the Columbus apartments, the Columbus Arena. Just that environment was just so chill. It was so vibey.
Yeah. Anyways, as for OpTic's individual performance this weekend, they played well. It was funny, we were talking about Huke getting dropped last week, and he had a pretty all-star series in this last set. But what we haven't talked about, and I don't think we've talked about it since last year, actually, is this was a weekend of heightened matches. You wouldn't know it, but they were heightened because they had 10K bounties on the line. What are our thoughts on not just these 10K bounties, but how can we make these league matches at this point in the season a little more interesting? Is it something to do with the points system? Is it these bounties? Because I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but I think that we're at a point where everyone's just looking forward to the majors.
I think maybe to a casual viewer, if they weren't familiar with how much these pros get paid and how much money they make outside of just their competition and prize pools, they'd probably be like, oh my god, that's so sick. Dude, Shotzzy versus this guy for 10 grand. Haha. But in reality, I feel like that prize pool is better off, maybe throwing a tournament, maybe an online one, similar to a major in not in sort of impact, but in sort of the way it's set up. I could be wrong there, but I think Pat's probably in agreement here. Fuck bounty matches, get some more tournaments up.
Yeah, I they're completely pointless. I could not have cared less who was playing for 10K this weekend or not. Especially when you consider dude, Vegas versus London for 10K. I could care less. Those teams are probably both not making champs.
It's charity to
the 10K. Yeah,
teams.
In reality, all this is another way to give players a little bit of money. But I don't think the bounty idea is a good one. I don't think it adds anything for viewership. I don't think it adds any heightened stakes for the players. I don't think the fans really care that much about it. I could be wrong, but it didn't change whether I was excited for a match or not. To Chris's point, I think there's way better uses for that money. And honestly, it kind of just screams a lack of creativity to me. Adding a 10K, prize pool on one league match that already doesn't matter, is just completely pointless. They need to just rethink that entire idea.
Yeah, don't think it's a good idea. Yeah.
And then how do we fix the problem of well, I guess the easy answer is maybe don't suck as much, but how do we fix the problem of there's 3 teams already before Major 4 that are pretty much out of champs, and we still have we still have Major IV and Toronto, and then champs. That's a long time to be playing Call of Duty with absolutely like no hope to play the final tournament.
Well, I mean, people make the argument that you still have, the major to play for, and you still obviously can make money there and, show up and place well and like add on to your quote unquote accolades and placements. But
I don't like that though, because I feel like those teams are already chalked, so their likelihood to place well at those are also just as low as it is to qualify for champs. To me, James, I think the tough answer here is just the disparity between the teams. Like we've had the CDL now, I think 3 or 4 years. It's a common theme who's going to be bottom 4 every year. It's literally been the same teams every single year since we started, and it's the orgs who are paying the minimum salaries, making horrible moves, aren't invested into this space, or have terrible management. Like it's year after year after year, the orgs that just don't care, or even if they do care, don't have the funding to compete with these top teams.
The thing is, though, they can't make them pay the funding, and if no one else is investing in the league, well, that's an entirely different issue.
But that's my point. It's a common theme, though. Like, it's been the same thing every year. It's the same 4 teams who don't qualify, and it's because they just simply don't care. Like, these orgs are paying the bare minimum. They should just not have gotten involved. And I think it just goes back to this, honestly, there's so many things under this franchise kind of question umbrella that we've talked about a few times with these topics, and it's like it all kind of goes back to that. It's all a result of that happening.
Yeah, it's hard for people. I mean, like I don't know the actual like semantics of how this actually happens, but like I can't see big orgs wanting to kind of essentially ditch their current like branding to make a new basically branding out of thin air that represents a city and basically try to transfer their fan base from this to that. Like, why would they want to start over? I feel like investing in franchising in the franchise league, unless they allow you to use your full branding as an organization, like for example, how OpTic is essentially OpTic and FaZe is essentially FaZe. Like the fact that some of these other organizations, like I'm sure LAG, like at least before, would have rather just been the Guard, like, or Mutineers would have probably liked to be Misfits. Like the fact that they have to start over and make a brand, I feel like that's another turn off to this whole franchising thing, or having to buy the rights to a city or stuff like that. Like there's just so many fucking barriers of entry that an organization that has to like spend money to just participate. And I feel like that turns a lot of these organizations that you might have seen in Call of Duty off. Like example, Evil Geniuses prior, or like all the old heads, like the complexities. Like none of these teams want to invest in this shit. It's just too much. It's just too much money for potentially no return. On top of that, I think one way that they could fix this though is they need to just let everybody go to champs. It means that like yes, some people might argue we don't want to see boring matches, but at the end of the day, like at least if teams are willing to try to make moves, like at least Vegas, for example, they might not have the money to, but they're trying to make moves. They're trying to get better. They're trying to actually form a competitive team that might at least be a dark horse by the end of the year. It basically just keeps teams from giving up. Like
the problem is if every team goes to champs, the problem is then the league matches matter even less.
Yeah.
And honestly, again, the league match format I think is terrible. I don't think Call of Duty as an esport makes sense to have league matches.
I don't think
like
any esport as a fucking
it's different when like
have it, bro.
When games have like hour-and-a-half long maps. Like, you know what I mean? When like series are like actual series. We have quick best of 5s, 10-minute maps, like anything can happen. To me, league matches just don't fit the Call of Duty ecosystem. I don't think they ever have.
I don't think it fits any ecosystem though, Pat. And the reason being is like you can even go to like the most successful esport, even FPS esport that's ever been made, dude. It's Counter-Strike. The difference in viewership from their ESL Pro League and the actual majors is fucking astronomical. Like it's absurd. Why not just host multiple like tournaments like that, maybe with lesser like prize money, and just host? Maybe you could also see, that's another argument you can make though. is like you can make it be like, oh, if there's an abundance of tournaments, then tournaments mean less. Like there's so many stupid counter arguments I'm sure you can make, although some I might not agree with. Like for example, that one. I'm just looking at it from both sides of the coin. I just think we need to go back to tournaments only, period. Whether they're online or LAN. And at the beginning of the season, they just copy the fucking challenger format. At the beginning of the season, whatever your seed was from last year is your starting seed. Then you go into the tournament, whatever you place at that tournament is now your seed. And you build upon that every single tournament, period. If you guys want multiple weekend content, then you host smaller tournaments that are worth less, but still worth something, and you broadcast those until the major. Do what Challengers is doing. Yeah, dude, the amount of people that tell me, come to my streams and be like, wow, I didn't know about this. Like, because all these new viewers are coming into Call of Duty through ranked and all these stuff. You'd be surprised in the lack of Warzone being good. The amount of people that come to my stream be like, dude, Challenger matches are lit. The amount of like Challenger like these tournaments are lit. Like I've been paying attention. Like, dude, some of these matches are insane. Like the Challenger Elite stuff. People like, because people have been tuning into that stuff from Scump's watch parties, Zuma's methods, all that stuff. They've been watching a lot of Challengers, and people eat that shit up. Now imagine if the pros had actual high stakes tournaments every single weekend, like amateurs did.
Yeah.
Hey, just the thought.
I think too that like I think in a perfect world the league matches would feel like more worth it. It kind of like a mixture of what you guys said, where if they were like somehow in person and all these teams weren't all the way across the league, and there was a perfect world where everybody was in Texas and there was a studio in Texas that was a CDL studio, they played in person with fans, and there wasn't the disparity that there currently is, like that's what makes like League of Legends exciting, to where like this last split, like there was like a 3-way tie at the end of the split, and they had like tiebreaker matches, and they were super entertaining matches. And like right now, because of the disparity, there is no reason to watch like some of the matches because nobody's fighting for champ spots. There's 2 teams right now that are fighting each other for the last spot. And then other than that, it is what it is. And so I think
tournaments would fix that though, James, because at the same time, like not only are those tournaments important for your seed, they're at the end of the day tournaments. So imagine, right, even hypothetically, if like OpTic didn't need any more seeding points, but they go into a tournament and they just go in there trolling, right? Like trolling, like they're not trying as hard because they're like, oh, I qualified, but they play against fucking Legion and Legion beats them, and then like that's gonna get fucking hype. Oh my god, OpTic sent to losers bracket by Legion, and then like on top of that, if there's more tournaments, then teams that might not have the points or seeding, right? Because you have to be, let's say you have to still be a top 8 seed, still are going to go into those tournaments and be like, I want to win the tournament. Like having more of those is better. Like eventually it's going to get to a point where, yeah, some of these teams might be playing to go to the major, but they're going to be using these league matches as practice, and they're not going to give a fuck if they lose anymore because they know they can't make it.
Yeah. Now kind of off that, like if you're on one of those teams right now, like what are you doing? It kind of goes to like a tweet that I saw from Paul X like recently in the last, I think, week. He tweeted something like, oh yeah, your KD is going to keep you like a roster spot, but not going to help your team win, or something along those lines. I don't know verbatim, but like, is that basically, are you like trying to boost your own player stock on those bottom 3 teams to like hopefully end up on another team?
I'd want to say no, but like realistically, yeah. I mean, there are people, I'm not going to say this for everyone. I think there are logical people in the scene that are going to be like, actually know why they're losing and not just point out the guy with the lowest KD. I think people are going to understand what it means to be a good teammate and have good communication and maybe, you know, share a struggle and not necessarily be like, oh, my teammate has a 0.8 and this other guy has a 1.0. Clearly the 0.8's the issue. Yeah. But that's not true for everybody. There's a lot of fucking dumbasses in the league that are players. We don't exist in a high IQ league. Unfortunately, a lot of us, including myself, I'm not going to say I'm completely immune from this, graduated high school and went straight to playing COD. Mm-hmm. Some of us don't have a lick of college in us. Some people do. Or just, you know, people are just not the most intelligent or the most schooled. And that's just going to lead to people just not really being the smartest people in the world and making stupid decisions. You see it all the time. But yeah, I definitely think people definitely play for their KDs.
Pat, what are you doing if you're on one of those teams?
Trying to get the fuck off.
How are you
like,
gonna get
dude,
off though if you're ass? You gotta how you gonna differentiate yourself from the pack?
I mean, yeah, I think honestly, like if you're looking to preserve your career and make money, like you have selfish intentions. Like to me, there's even if you tried to play for the win and did all the good stuff on those bottom 4 teams, it doesn't even matter because you get an upset win against a good team. No one cares. Like it's not looked at as anything special. It's just like a fluke win, and then you're back to being
People
bottom
don't commend
4.
you for it. They literally make fun of the other team for losing to you.
Dude, that's kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, like why I hate when these bottom 4 teams are the way they are, because there's no incentive to do good on them. Honestly, like you're every player on those teams are trying to get off of those teams. They're trying to get on one of the orgs in the top 8. Even if the standings are like a fresh start, fresh season, no one wants to be on those orgs that are bottom 4. Like those orgs that are bottom 4 in the standings are just the bottom 4 orgs period in the league. And it's year to year. And so it's
There's
always
only one exception to that, and it's literally LAG, because those guys pay.
Those guys, they're getting out of esports. They're literally leaving esports, so they don't even exist anymore. And yeah, they were an org who had money but had the worst management of all time, and look at where that led them. So again, goes back to the same thing. Just honestly, to me, we have an 8-team league. As sad as that is to say, I don't think it's a 12-team league. I actually think it's an 8-team league, and it's been proven year after year after year. So yeah, every single one of those players who are on one of those bottom 4 teams should be doing everything in their power to get off. Whether that be just nonstop talking to players on those top 8 teams, or trying to plan for a roster mania, or playing selfishly, or whatever it is. Because yeah, there's just no success down there. I would honestly argue, outside of the fact that they obviously have some guaranteed income, even though it is probably the minimum salaries, if not close to it, you're probably better off in challengers. You're going to get, more. I think challenger players would get more opportunities to join those top 8 good teams than any player on one of those bottom 4. I don't know how you feel about that, Chris, but I don't think anyone on those bottom 4 teams is getting called from another org they would rather pick from challengers.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, because at the end of the day, most of those teams are going to also ask for buyouts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're not only are you getting underpaid compared to the rest of the league, being bottom 4 in the league, but your trajectory to join another team is super limited because.
Oh yeah, if it wasn't for minimum contracts, no one would want to be on the teams, because they look at it as like, at least I have a job. In challengers, there is nothing.
Yeah.
But if you're a person that doesn't need the income, you're probably better off in challengers.
But you're probably making, if you're good in challengers, you're probably making equal money. If you win out, I don't know what the total, what do you win if you get first in challenger champs?
Challenger champs, I don't know what the spread is this year.
What is it like for a regular tournament?
30K?
It's not much. It's not each. It's like you're getting, if you win every event in challengers, then maybe. But if you're not winning everything, then no. I would take the guaranteed income too. That shit's faded, Pat. But I mean, you wouldn't know if you don't pay attention to challengers. It's all good. Don't judge you. But still, like I said,
I wouldn't want to get trapped on one of those orgs, bro. You come in, your stock gets obliterated, and then you're back in challengers, and then you got to do another hurdle of like, all right, well.
The thing is, those teams do it to themselves are so dumb, bro. Like, if you're a struggling team or a shit org, why do you just throw together a whole bunch of pros that obviously don't want to play for you? They're just forced into it because they want job security. Pick up a fucking amateur team, because those guys all are hungry to prove themselves. Sure, a lot of those players are not used to getting paid hundreds of, like, for example, and I'm not saying Clay is like this because I know the type of person Clay is, but Clay has been historically probably one of the most paid players we've had for a long time, and he's been very successful for a long time. He's used to making a lot more money than he probably is on Vegas. You really think that, I'm not saying Clay is going to do this, but I'm saying you really think someone like that would potentially not be either in the better state, in the best state of mind, or try as hard necessarily to like because like they've been so used to being treated so much better. Like, you think they're gonna try as hard as, let's say, somebody that's fresh, that's never. It's just common knowledge. Like, bro, you take like a rich human being and you put them in a scenario, those guys will typically be ungrateful. But you give somebody that's been poor their whole life an opportunity, and those guys are gonna literally do everything they can to maintain it. Like, not every human being is like that, and I don't mean to use Clay as an example, but I'm just saying in general, why the fuck would you just pick up some washed pro, or why would you just pick up somebody that already has not had much success and throw them together with other people with zero success? Pick up a team that at least has some sort of record. Just because it's challengers doesn't mean you write it off. Because there's a lot of pros that went into challengers and played like shit. And people make the argument, well, they didn't play with the best people. Well, there's a lot of pros that unfortunately didn't play with the best people in the pro league either. We're not using that argument, are we?
Yeah.
So get some fucking actual challenger people in there that want to fucking play in the pro league and aren't just trying to collect a check, bro. It's stupid.
Yeah. Well, just flip gears a little bit and a little bit more of a podcasty question. So as esports and sports have like developed over time, you have like greatest of all times. And I know that we've had that conversation before. I know that everybody has their own opinions on where people are, but regardless, I think everyone's top 3 are retired pros now. So if you had to pick any current player in the league that had a possibility of becoming the greatest Call of Duty player of all time, who would you pick?
In the future?
Yeah. So like when it's all said and done and when they retire, who has the best shot at whoever's pick is, Crim, Damon, Scump, whatever the case is? Who has the best shot at being number 1?
Simper Beezy.
Simper Abizi right now.
I don't even think that changes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, there's a couple people though that I could see doing it. Like, it's hard.
I don't. Who?
Pred.
Nah.
What if Pred went to OpTic and they won, like, they had like a dynasty season?
It's, well, actually, now that I think about it,
I still don't think that matters.
Think about, you know what's hard about this whole scenario is like Simpa, Beezy, and Celium, like that trio are just such a, like, they're all in contention for that. Every single one of them is contention for that. And assuming they
sell less.
Here's the thing though, assuming they stay together for the rest of their careers,
then it's Simper Beezy clear. Yeah.
And that's
Cell really can't get in that combo.
The only reason why that's a thing though is because Cell didn't win without them.
Well, Cell missed out on like all of 2019 success that they had.
Yeah. That's the thing though. I don't know. It's such a
I don't think
conversation.
Pred could even get close. Like Pred's not going to win champs this year. He's not going to win champs last year. He didn't win champs last year. Like,
I mean, just talent wise and personality wise, I feel like they have it. They have an opportunity. I guess Shotzzy also has an opportunity. Let's say he wins another champs.
I don't see how he doesn't even come close in wins. He's won what, 2 events, 3 events?
Yeah, but well,
how does that match up now though?
Because the only reason it's Simpa Beezy is because they had that dynasty season in Cold War. But like,
and they dominated in 2019.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm just saying, realistically, I don't see another season like that happening, like for anyone ever anymore.
Even outside of their dynasty year in Cold War, they've been top 3 like every event ever. Like their averages are insane. Like they are averaging like a 3rd place finish or 2nd place finish in their career over like 40 events or whatever it is. Like I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you saying it's Simper Beezy. I'm just trying to figure out if there's anyone else that even would be able to. It's Simper, Beezy, and the next person up is nowhere near them.
It's Simp and a Beezy unless if one of them splits and can put down the other.
Do you think they will split at one point, or do you think they're kind of locked in?
No.
Locked in?
They don't have an incentive to split.
Unless they are getting hoop taped.
Yeah.
There's no point, bro.
Both of them will always get paid. There's like, you know what I mean? There's no incentive. They'll always get paid, and they'll always have a safe spot. They don't have to, you know what I mean?
Always place top 4.
Yeah, they'll always also have the best teams because they will attract the best players. Like even if Slasher retires and Cell retires, like they'll easily get two more guys of the best caliber. Like,
yeah. Now, how many more do they need?
A lot. They just need years. Like they just need years under their
I don't know
belt.
if I'd say, yeah, I don't. How many do they have? Anyone? Does it use?
So
They have like 8 wins, I think, and like the 2 world
See,
championships,
I
8
want
or
to
9.
say, I want to say a lot, but in the reality of what we play now, I don't. I think we would have to.
Dude,
there would
I hate
have to
this
be-
argument of what we have now. We have an 8-team league. Like we legit have an 8-team league. I'm sorry. I'm tired of this. Like the competition is better now. We have an 8-team league. They are going up against 8 decent teams every event, and some it's 6. Like we talk about some of these teams, you know, coming into an event weekend. You have teams like Rocker, like that just don't even. They're not even there.
no,
So in
but
reality, you have like a
it's
16,
like the scale
and you're
of the
winning 2
tournaments,
matches.
Because like back,
Yeah,
in,
but you're
like,
winning 2 matches, and you're in a grand final.
in like, okay, I'm saying back in older days of Call of Duty, we probably had more tournaments like BO2. Not BO2, like BO2, yeah.
We had an
Ghost.
average of like 10 tournaments a year. Average.
Okay,
at most.
and dude, and then
realistically, it was like 9.
and then there's the anomaly year of like Advanced Warfare where like
That was the only year we had more.
Okay,
'Cause
but
we
like
also the next year after that we went down to 5. So
yes, but
it's
there's
the same thing.
there's teams that farmed a couple wins in that regard.
Yeah, OpTic.
back
They
in the
farmed
day.
OpTic and FaZe.
And then
farmed the whole year.
on top of that, there was dominant like actual dynasties, which are probably never gonna happen again. So I feel like the scale of tournaments just needs to be bigger. I'm not saying that so they can overtake. I'm saying so they could be in the conversation.
I really don't.
I'm like, I don't like the conversation of the GOAT. I think everyone was the greatest in their own way and contributed something large to the grand scheme of Call of Duty. And I feel like by the end of it, they will also do that. I'm not going to ever say this one player was better than all of them because
GOAT has nothing to do with what you contribute to Call of Duty. And I think that's what was so like.
Thing is, no one's going to win third. How many championships does Crim have?
Like 37.
No one is
38.
winning that many. Like
But there's also some fugazi on there.
even if
I counted like the Australia event where there was like 2 teams there.
Yeah.
okay, but even if they play as long as Crim does, they're not achieving that. Nobody is, and the reason is just there's just way more comp. Yeah, there's way more comp. I'm not saying the comp is necessarily better because the argument is we always play at a ceiling, right? And everyone's can reach that ceiling, but no one else goes any higher, right? We the big T argument, but it's more so that like we just have more comp. Like there's just more people.
I don't know if that's true.
There are more people at that ceiling now.
We have Crim played 15 years and took a 2-year break. Realistically, that's what happened. Crim played 15 years in Call of Duty and took a 2-year break to play Halo. So, and in that time period, like when we do this comparison, Simp has only played for 4 years. Like there's still 11 years that Crim played more. You're telling me that in the next 11 years in 2034,
you have to shave.
He couldn't have that many events.
You have to shave some of those years off because we played a couple of those years while we were like before like we were 18. I think if you start at
Crim didn't. Crim is 30 years old. Like
wait. Oh yeah, wait. Do any of his champions? When was Crim 18? BO2 probably.
Crim didn't win before he was 18.
Oh, okay, then never mind for Crim.
Bro, anyway.
I don't know. Either way,
bro,
I still don't think.
No, let's talk about this. Simp has only played COD for 4 years. Right? 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. And we just started 2023. Now, right? So he's in his 5th year. He's in his 5th year. There's still 10 more years that he has to catch up to Crim in terms of career playtime. So you're telling me that at the end of 2033,
holy fuck,
he couldn't be close to that? I feel like
something, dude. How many is he at right now? 8?
37 or 38.
I don't know, bro. That's like
and
although I do think he's gonna win many more. And he should, or Abizi, and them both should. It's more so like it's the weight of the tournaments, bro. Do you know how hard it is to win a tournament nowadays compared to back then?
And I still hate that argument, though.
No.
We're in an 8-team league.
Yes, we are. However, bro, Pat. You know for a fact back in BO2 there was maybe two other teams that were at the ceiling of being able to.
Yeah, but there's only 4 now. We just talked about to start this episode. Who can you see winning Major 4? It's OpTic, it's Thieves, it's FaZe, and it's Ultra. There's no one else. No one else is even close in contention.
Yeah, you're right, but at the same time,
there's nobody. Like, why do we even acknowledge these rocker teams?
But the thing is, we're not getting another dominant.
I don't think we will get the dominance. But
I don't think we're gonna get that dominance, and that's the thing is though. That's why it's so inflated. Like the amount of tournament wins, it's not taking anything away from them, like because they earned it. It's just that, like, bro, that stint where, like, let's say you had with Complexity, how many tournaments did you win with Cole?
Like 12 or 13.
Okay, I'm not taking that away from you. Don't take that the wrong way. 12 or 13 tournaments are on your team are from a dominant run.
But that was from winning everything over 2 years. FaZe could do the same thing.
Listen. What I'm saying is, imagine Cold War. Imagine the game Cold War lasted for 3 years. Then aBeZy and Simp probably would have more championships, inflating their like count.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that is never thought about. Simp and aBeZy have a massive advantage that we never had back in the day, and I'll tell you why. They are playing the same game. Since 2019 to now, every game has been basically the exact same. I would even throw BO4 in there, to be honest, but they've all been the exact same. You go back to our day, we went from regular boots to jetpacks with abilities, back to boots, then to these tax sprint, fucked up spawns, casual COD. They're playing the same game. We had to switch every 2 years.
They're playing the same game mechanically to an extent.
Yeah, but that's a huge thing.
But also the gameplay variety and the gameplay like flow is so much more random, bro.
No, I agree with you, but I'm saying they don't have to adapt to different games though. They get to play the same shit. Like mechanically, they get to stay at the same skill level. When you go back to like bro, think like COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, BO1, and then think like a little bit modern with BO2 and Ghost and whatever. Then you jump to jetpacks. Then you jump to specialists in jetpacks and wall running. Then you jump back to boots. Then you jump to stim fucking slide canceling. Then you jump to tax sprint random casual COD. Like no red dots on a mini map. Like there's so many different styles of COD.
So for
they get the same one.
Those of you guys in the chat watching, to the viewers, not chat, sorry, the viewers, the comments. In my opinion, I think Pat's going to be on the other side of this. I would much rather have to adapt in a Call of Duty game to different game mechanics, but at least keep the same formula with quote unquote good maps, a normal fucking spawn system, and all that stuff. Like all the things that make Call of Duty good, fun, and competitive, rather than
but Chris, here's the thing.
Keeping the same mechanics every year, but having terrible fucking maps, terrible spawn system, absolutely RNG filled game mechanics that literally make it so it's just less skillful. I would much rather have the things that we had to deal with back then than the things we have now.
I don't disagree with you, but the problem with that is there is a reason that they were able to stay at that sustained level of dominance. Bro, if I got to play BO2 and in my entire career, like, yeah, I'm placing top 3 every event until I stop playing a BO2 style game. And that's what I'm talking about with why they're at such an advantage is most likely due to the success of the COD franchise in general since Modern Warfare 19 and Warzone happened. We're going to see this style of game stay for an extended period of time. So that means that they get to play exactly what they know and like.
Because
it is. They get to play. They're not going to fall off. There is no fall off. There is no changing to them.
If we played MW1 or even this game or Vanguard, and I'm gonna exclude Cold War because I mean you didn't play it anymore, but I played Cold War. Cold War was as normal as a Call of Duty as you could get.
Still had slide canceling and it did everything else.
Slide canceling wasn't like an RNG mechanic. Slide canceling was an abusive mechanic.
It's still something that they're used to. You don't go from think about what we were used to. We were used to
listen. I'm talking about
make the comparison.
I'm playing the game systems, the actual systems of the game. It had a normal time to kill. It had good maps because we actually played with basically a lot of BO2 maps. The guns actually took skill to use, right? Blah blah blah. Right. If we played MW1 or like you played MW1 or like Vanguard for literally an entire year, bro, you're not telling me Dallas Empire or LA Thieves were gonna just have a dominant fucking year where they won everything.
You're
and
missing the
inflated
point.
their shit.
You're completely
You
missing my
can't
point.
compare it to
I'm not
BO2.
talking about the teams. I'm saying the players. Simp and Abizi. These style of CODs fit their style of play, and they never will have to switch from that. They won't have to just randomly go and play jetpacks for 3 years, or add wall running, or add specialists, or go to 5v5, and then go back to 4v4, and then go to a boot. They don't have to deal with that. So, like, they get to stay at their sustained level of dominance the whole time. They get to play the same type of CODs that they know that they are great at.
So we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I
don't think they're gonna be at an advantage here. I don't think we'll ever see another dominant team.
Let us
There's a reason
know
they're top
in the
3 every
comments below what you guys think. Are you Team Chris or are you Team Pat on this one?
Hold on. Another factor. It's in the franchise model. They don't have to deal with like the team dynamics that happened back in the day. Think about it, bro. You could basically get any teammate you wanted back in the day. There wasn't a contract hurdle. Like, they get to stay at like team wise. They're gonna keep the same teams, and it's not gonna get poached. Back in the day, bro, like people just got poached. If another team with other players wanted someone on your team who was really good, boom, they could get them. They could just go and, hey, I'll give you more money. It doesn't work that way in this ecosystem. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, on to a much more calm topic and probably calm question. Actually, no, we can keep it intense as fuck. What was the one time in your career, if you had to pick one, on LAN that you lost complete composure because of uncontrolled circumstances? The most annoying thing that's happened in your competitive career because of uncontrolled circumstances.
Pat, do you have anything on the head, or do you have anything like to go off of, or are you still thinking?
Uncontrolled circumstances? I mean, the one thing that comes to mind, and I mean, I lost full, but like this tournament was the least I think I cared about of all my tournaments, was an EGL 8 in fucking Manchester. I forgot who we were playing, but my team was me, TP, Nadeshot, and John. And the only reason we were at this tournament is because Nadeshot was signing his Red Bull deal, and Red Bull sponsored our team for the tournament. And this was MW3, and like me and Teep didn't play the first half of MW3. We came back at the very end because there was a couple European events, and obviously Black Ops 2 was coming out in a few months. We played it. I think it was EGL 8, Chris. If that sounds right to you.
No,
it was the one OpTic lost to TCM. I think that was 8.
EGL 8. It was.
Yeah.
The EGL 9 was the one we won in BO2, which is the next one.
I completely forgot who I was even playing, but it was fucking freezing in Manchester at this time, and they opened like the massive loading door on like basically like 30 feet to the right of our station on the main stage, and we were on like the right side of that, and whoever we were playing was on the opposite side. And bro, we were just getting blasted with this cold ass wind gusts, and like I don't even care. We ended up getting like 5th or something at the tournament, and the loss doesn't matter. But bro, we were just sitting there losing fucking full. That like they just randomly opened this loading dock door right as the series started, map 1, and we just got hit with this cold. Like someone just took a freeze gun and just shot it at us.
Wait, you know what's hilarious?
And
I can't
yeah,
think of anything really from the old days. But that's actually like a similar story to something now. You know that event where I placed top 40 millionth at Boston?
Yeah, that was bad.
You know what's hilarious? So our games were up, the challenger station was up in the stadium. So you know the music hall, you go all the way across and you're at the actual stadium. So where we had our matches are in those like box, like the box, like the suites kind of, where you can literally look out into the stadium and like open glass doors and like walk out onto the stands, right? Guess what? All those fucking like glass doors, they're not like completely sealed. They have like cracks in them. So like it was, you know how fucking brick it was at Boston? Guess what? There's no way for them to insulate that area because it's basically outside in a way. So we were, all the challengers, including myself, we are playing our matches in like literally negative, like not negative, but like 20, 10 degree weather, negative degree weather, everyone had their winter coats on. And I was literally fucking freezing. Like when I tell you I couldn't feel my hands, I couldn't feel my hands. Like it was bad. And there was nothing they could do because that's where everything was. And everyone, including myself, was forced to play in that environment. So you thought one gust of wind was bad? Well,
I mean, it wasn't one guy. It was nonstop. It was like they left it open.
Except for Doug. Doug was tank topped up.
Even Doug had a jacket on. Doug had a winter coat on. That's how you know those conditions were unplayable. If Doug Sensor Marin is wearing a coat.
That's hilarious.
Another one I just thought of. Dude, it's always the weather environment. The first X Games. Bro, when we were in Austin, Texas, dude, we were in a tent, and I swear they got better at these as time went on because they like really pumped AC like crazy. But the first X Games was so bad. It was like 110 in Austin, and we're in like this little tent in the middle of like I forgot the it's one of the circuit. Do you know what the it's called? That racetrack is called, Chris? Where they do like, anyway, we were at the wherever it was at X Games in Austin, and it was hot as shit. And the tents
plus degrees.
Yeah, and the tents were not like AC'd like they were later years. And you had to shit in a porta potty. You had like a mile walk, or you had to use a porta potty in like 110 degree heat.
And the mile walk,
the only way to
go from one end of the track, like where we played,
to
like
the other,
the pro player like area booth thing. You know what I'm talking about, Pat?
Yeah. Which actually that was actually super nice where that was the pro player.
But getting there,
but yeah, it was a mile journey. And the only way to like actually cool off, they had like these little like sprinkler mist.
I was gonna say the little spray fans.
Yeah, bro. But it was like they were like, it was part of like the sprinkler system. Like they just came out. It was like it was like two big pipes that you stood under, and it just sprinkled mist down on you, and that was like the only way to cool off. Bro, like we're playing COD. Just put us in a building and let us play.
I got smoked at that event. Listen, I've always been a big guy, right? But back in the X Games days, I was a bigger guy. That was like when I barely was starting when I was like an MV. I was like starting my weight loss journey. I was huge, right? Fucking anyways, there was we didn't, so our like little like name tags, so we had access to that like area where they had like food and stuff and like bathrooms and stuff away from the fans, but that shit was deep. And guess what the pro X Games not gamers, what are they, athletes had that we did? They had access to the fucking go-karts, but we didn't. So we had to walk, and like Pat said, it was damn near like half a mile to a mile every time. And like, bro, for me, I'm not taking a shit in a porta potty. I'm a big sweaty dude. I was going to that fucking place every time I need to use the bathroom. So I was just fucking, dude, I think I actually lost like 10 pounds while at this event, and I got smoked that tournament. Absolutely smoked.
Oh, it was the Circuit of Americas. That's what it's called.
Every fucking dude. So I was wearing, dude, this is kind of grody, but like, you know how like you're wearing so I was wearing like a khakis, because back in the day, khakis were acceptable. I was sweating through my like shorts / on my underwear to the actual shorts, and it looked like I was pissing myself from how bad I was sweating. Like that's how bad hot it was at that tournament. It was disgusting.
It was bad.
Well, shout out the growth of Call of Duty. We've come a long way.
We were at the X Games.
X Games, yeah.
For $0, by the way.
There was no gold medal.
Pool. Yeah, there was no prize pool, just the gold medal.
I will say, so like with you guys being kind of at the forefront of Call of Duty and kind of going from day one to single-handedly experience like the growth of where it is now. Do you remember like the first tournament where you like played and were like, holy shit, there's fans here? Like there's fans watching Call of Duty.
Yeah, I remember mine. It was 2010 at the Hilton Anatole, actually, in Dallas, Texas. It was it was Modern Warfare 2 Nationals, and this was obviously COD had Nats for 08, COD 4, 09, COD 4. And this was 2010 for Modern Warfare 2. We got the super side station cheese. Like Basically, in 2010, there was no real support from like the publishing side. Like there usually is, like Microsoft and Sony will have support, but we were basically on like a side station that was basically it was two setups, right? So 4 teams could play. That was it. There was no like practice area, nothing like that. It was just those 2 setups. And that was where a full 8-team national bracket occurred. And there was no like TVs above you to watch the games. It was like I have a picture too somewhere. You just sat down and you played, and like people who were watching could only sit behind you and watch directly to your monitors. It was basically a challengers, how challengers is set up now. If you've been to the open events for and been to the challengers arena, but it was only 2, and it was like off to the side. And this is actually a sick venue, the Hilton Anatole, because like the ballroom convention center, whatever, is connected to the actual hotel, and it's massive. And this was my like first travel to tournament. I think I was 2010. I was just turned 6. I was like 16 and a half or something. And like, my dad came with me. It was my first tournament. And when we walked in, like you saw back in the day, MLG was sponsored by fucking all these companies, Doritos, Dr. Pepper, Stride Gum.
2010, right?
Yeah, there was a bunch of those type of sponsors. But at the time it was StarCraft was there and Halo was there for their national tournament. And Halo was actually cool this year because the Halo transition years was basically like Halo Reach had just came out, but it was Halo 3's national tournament. And so like the 8 pro teams were playing the national tournament for Halo 3. And then like the teams who didn't qualify for Halo 3 Nats were playing the Halo Reach Combine. And so there's 2 Halo tournaments going on at the same time. But then StarCraft had its own thing off to the side. And like StarCraft at this tournament was actually pretty big. Like they had a big thing. And this was like the first time I started getting into StarCraft. And they actually got pretty big in 2011 with MLG. And I was always... I kind of followed their scene a lot, but yeah, when we walked in, first got to the hotel, and hotel was just massively packed. This was my first tournament ever, just with all types of different people. And then the first day going to the venue, it's like, not only was I seeing like obviously the players and people that were there for COD, but like the place was packed with StarCraft and Halo. And I think that was too the first time that like my dad realized that like there was way more into this than like me just playing online and getting, you know, a couple $100 checks for winning a big tournament or something. Because yeah, it was like multi-million dollars of equipment and monitors and like everything. So that was my first one.
Mine was MLG Dallas back in 2011. It was the event.
The next event.
It was the next event. It was the first one that Pat put on the board with Quantic Leverage. Yeah, I went there because I convinced my mom to help me pay for it, and I ended up paying her back with the prize money I won. I went there with Dose, John 287, and this other guy named what was his name? Burst. We were like a pickup team essentially. I joined that team. We ended up getting 4th. It was lit. But
did you guys
like
go as Collapse?
No, we went as what the fuck was it? Actually, I don't remember what the team name was. I don't think it was Collapse. It might have been, but I don't remember. No, it was Ground Zero. I remember I named it.
Oh yeah, it was. You guys got 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went there. I got 4th. Of course, my first event. Typical Parasite fashion nowadays. Pickup team. Like I can't catch a break. But just thinking about it, I never really cared about the fans in that aspect where I was like in awe. I don't know, maybe I'm just weird and I don't care for crowds that much. But I think I'm just gonna like say there's one good feeling about this event when I first went there that I was so excited for. When I first got there, first day, soon as I got to the tournament, the best feeling was going to that Astro booth and being able to afford an Astro gaming headset. And I bought that headset with the mix amp and everything, and I was so hyped, bro. Because back in the day, bro, we used to use Turtle Beaches. We used to have the shit headsets, and I never came from like luxury, right?
You also got the pro player discount back in the day.
Yeah, that too.
Really?
Like, I didn't.
Yeah, we had a pro player discount on all the MLG sponsors.
That's dope.
So Yeah, I didn't have.
What was it, like a 20% or something like that? 10?
Like a 10 or
10 to 15.
10 to 15.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't come from luxury, bro. So being able to like go up to that booth was so hype for me and be like, yeah, I want an Astro gaming headset. And I don't know why back in the like nowadays I like the black stuff, but like you guys remember how like iconic the original Astros look like with the white and black?
Yeah.
Yeah, like just
The
being able to
get the
those
MLG
was
speaker
so
tags.
sick. Yeah.
The MLG speaker tags were lit back in the day.
Yeah,
Oh,
back in the
geez.
day. So yeah, just
On the same note, I guess for the both of you, because I feel like people experience it a lot different now. There's a lot more to show for it. Like if I wanted to show somebody the Call of Duty space, I would just pull up a video of one of the recent events, and you can immediately tell that there's a lot of money going on in this thing, and it's there. What was your parent situation like when you were convincing them to play Call of Duty professionally, or what was that conversation like?
I mean, I when you brought up money, I looked like, and I'm just thinking about it. Chris, could you imagine how much easier that conversation could have been if you're like, hey, I'm going to this tournament for $500,000, bro. I'm looking. We won. I won the MLG Dallas tournament. I won 10 grand as a team. So 2,500 each, basically with the bounty matches we were talking about. I won a tournament for the same amount of money that bounty matches are occurring for.
Yeah.
Like that's mind-blowing comparison. So back then it was way harder, I think, to convince. And my conversation was pretty much just like keep up with school, like don't let school fall behind type of thing. Because yeah, I mean, there was obviously an opportunity to make some money. Granted, it was nowhere near what you can make nowadays. Like, was this 12 years ago? We were playing for pennies on the dollar in comparison. There were no salaries. There were no really ways to monetize anything. At this time, Twitch wasn't born yet. It was still Justin TV. And like, Chris, I think you streamed on Justin TV before it went to Twitch. Maybe this was like when you got partnered early in 2010, 2011. You could make money, but like there was no subscribe button. It was just like you'd run ads and that was it. And you'd make a little. You wouldn't make much at all. But yeah, the amount of money it was nothing compared to what you have nowadays. And I think, and that wasn't as hard because most of us, I think, were in high school at this time. Like there was probably a few pro players who had like just recently graduated, but like the age range was probably like 14 to 20 on the high end at this point in time. You gotta think Stro was like still playing at this time, like Astro. But yeah, that conversation was mostly just around school, and luckily enough, we got a sponsorship with Quanic, who paid for our travel and hotel, or so
I feel like that's big at that point.
Yeah, so that didn't happen originally. Like, I paid for my dad's flight to go out the first time when we went to the 2010 event. But like after you got the sponsorship, it made things way easier because like hotel and flights covered. You just got to show up, and like Team Pass was covered. Because MLG also gave you a was it a $400 stipend? Yeah, it was like I think it was $400.
Yeah, which was
$300
your flight.
Was that for being like a pro? Or
yeah,
like,
so every pro player got a stipend. It was to cover travel if you didn't have a sponsor.
Yeah, that way.
What qualified you as a pro back then? Like to fall into it?
Yeah, top 8. It was based on seed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like you would, once you locked in like a top 8, as long as you didn't like massively fall out of that and like you weren't top 8 going into the next event, you were automatically qualified. So yeah, I mean, I think there was 6 events in 2011, 6 or 7. I believe, Chris, do you remember 6 or 7 events? Something like that.
My conversation was completely different. I had multiple. I had 2. I had one eventually when I first started out my playing career, going to tournaments, which was the 2011, where I was basically just telling my mom, like, I want to go to these tournaments. I want to, obviously I grinded scrims and stuff like that and played online in tournaments, and I had, won a couple online stuff. So convincing her to let me fly out and essentially meet strangers, that was the hard part. But the second conversation, and I think winning champs made it easier, was essentially when I graduated high school and it's like time to go to college or get a job or whatever. I think I graduated before I won champs, I want to say.
Yeah, you would have had to because you're my age, right?
Yeah, and I
Yeah, I
think
graduated the year before BO2 champs.
yeah, I think I graduated the year like right no, well, I
Model Fair 3. You
graduated.
graduated in Model Fair 3.
Oh, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think winning champs or even MW3, when I was doing well in MW3 tournaments, I think that also helped because I had sponsors and I went to a lot of tournaments. But I think what ultimately kept me in the game in terms of like, playing competitively as a pro for so long was winning champs because in hindsight, although you could say winning champs and inflating my ego probably had a downside in terms of the fall of my career, I think winning champs and having that money to fall back on carried me for a long time. Like not only was I able to I didn't pay too many bills, but I lived at home, so like I obviously didn't spend that much money in the first place. I think having that money was able to carry me for a while because as I had to, pay for expenses or buy stuff or help my family out a little bit, um, I eventually grew my career. Like I reinvested that 100K into like not only me being a pro for so long, but like into like streaming or like time, right? So like that having that money to fall back on and not having to go to college or go to like a job is what eventually what kept me like competing for so long, even though I had dire teams and circumstances after I'd say AW was when I basically started the super downward trajectory because I got third with FaZe, which was another nice boost. We got like what 25K each.
30.
But 30K each, but after that it was like chalk for me. Like BO3 I went with complexity and we went undefeated in group stages, but went out top 16. We got double eliminated last map, and then like I didn't have the best career in BO3. I pretty much sat out the entire time. Didn't have good teammates. And then IW was the same thing, didn't have good teammates. And then going into World War II, I tried to bring it back, but like if you basically my career was going up and down. I think if
Yeah.
it wasn't for winning champs, I probably would have given up because I wouldn't have had the money nor the motivation
Yeah.
to continue on this stint of competing, dude.
It's crazy.
I
It's
think
actually crazy.
so. Something I brought up was like, think about the players and challengers now, right? Like they're basically in the situation that you're talking about. Like if you don't get the money,
Sorry, Fly.
like it's especially too, Chris, when you consider like you're probably you were probably younger in 2013 than most challenger players are now anyway.
I was 17 turning 18.
No. After you in Black Ops 2 you were about to be 19.
I was now 18 turning 19, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say that's probably younger than all challenger players because they have to wait until they're 18 to compete anyway. And I think they're in kind of like that similar boat. Like you're going to become an adult, and if you aren't already, and if you aren't making the money to live an adult life, like you have to, like you said, Chris, you were debating moving on. You have to move on because you can't just keep wasting your time if there's no return.
There are some blessings,
And that's
though.
that's my problem with challengers as it is right now.
I agree, but there are some blessings nowadays that I think they need to be fully incorporated. And in fact, I think they need to be one in the same. I think the CCL, the College COD League, needs to be an actual thing with challengers and in like partnership with challengers where if you are a highly let's say I don't know how they would match this up with the school year. If you are a top, let's say whatever tournament or whatever seed, or maybe they have a tournament for it, or if you place whatever throughout the year, every player on those teams, regardless if those teams stick together, gets a scholarship to college. And you would obviously attend. So now you would be obviously in school doing the CCL stuff while also competing. That would make it so people don't have to choose between an education and following their Call of Duty career. I think having some sort of partnership where that's an actual thing would be fucking dope, dude. I would have gone to school and played if I had the opportunity to, like where I could like where I had the money, right? Like I would
mean,
love
yeah.
to, especially if it's directly with Call of Duty.
It would help the path just be more respected as well, because then it's very in line with regular sports. Like if you want to go to sports and go to college and play sports, like nobody questions it. Like a lot of people, and they don't have aspirations even of playing professionally anymore. Like you can go and play D3 or NAIA sports just to play sports while you're in college. And yeah, so I think that is something. Now kind
of they need to be conjoined for sure, because I think then the option is just there. Like you either get a job and play COD, or if you have the means for it, then play COD and only play COD. But go to school and play COD. Now you have a backup plan.
Yeah. On the same note as kind of back in the day, we've had a lot of conversations recently, not necessarily us, but just kind of around the league on the Warzone side of things, on competitive Call of Duty, the CDL. Because we have the CDL now, we have more of a direct line of communication from what it seems like from players to developers a little bit. But I kind of wanted to ask you guys, what was that like pre-CDL? Like back in the day, when did like the developers start getting involved a little bit? And like, what was it like back then where I think it was Ghosts? Did like pros get invited out to play like a showcase match in Ghosts before the game was out? I don't know what
the first true time was Black Ops 2. And it was when David Vonderhaar, we used to play a lot on 360icons.com. A lot of people probably have no idea what that name is that are watching this right now. But there was a guy named Ego the Icon. He's still around on Twitter. He hosted a site and would run weekend tournaments, and like there was actually a bunch of tournaments, and it was basically like the OG UMG where you would play like matches that wasn't game battles. And so David Vonderhaar, Chris, I don't remember if you remember this, when they made that forum thread on 360 Icons, and we like basically were hashing out the rules with David Vonderhaar. And I'm sure there was a few other people involved from Treyarch at the time, but this was also the first time where like they put Mike and Fwiz, Hastro and Fwiz casting in the official Black Ops 2 trailer. If you guys remember that, there was like an M8 clip on was it Turbine or one of those maps back in the day?
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I think Treyarch was really invested in the competitive community, because I think they had somewhat followed like Black Ops 1. They weren't involved, right? There was no like player facing involvement of like conversations, at least I wasn't a part of. Maybe it was with like, MLG or maybe Hastro, obviously, since he had worked with them to do the casting stuff. But that was the first time that there was any like actual dev involvement into the competitive side. And it was like, I remember like Vonderhaar was like pushing score streaks really hard in Black Ops 2. It was the first time for it. And like there was a lot of back and forth about that, because it was about like, okay, well, if we let score streaks in, which score streaks? So there was a ton that obviously could not work. And we were discussing like some of the things that were clearly broken, and we had to ban, because we had to work with them to get the rule set, because it was really dev owned back then. It wasn't like there wasn't just an Activision, player operations team that could just like facilitate this information and make it happen. The devs it was the devs' call at the end of the day. And then moving on to Ghost, I don't remember any.
I swore there was like a showcase match that I saw. Like I remember, I maybe it wasn't Ghost, but I feel like there was some match before Ghost was out that was like two pro teams, or like an eights lobby of.
I don't think it was Ghost.
I don't know about Ghost. I guess the first time with the devs is MW3. If you think about it, they hosted COD XP, and that was the first time where it was a showcase for the new game, but it was essentially an esports tournament. Yeah, I might have had fucked up rules, but that's probably the first time.
Really, an esports tournament.
Well, you get the point, but it was a tournament, bro. Like it was an actual tournament with like multiple.
It wasn't
teams,
meant to be a tournament. It was a marketing activation for the game.
It was, but
it was qualified through playing MW3 online. Like Or was it
No,
Black Ops 1
because
online?
MW3 wasn't out yet. Yeah.
Black Ops 1 online. Yeah.
But it still was.
I remember TP was playing Dom Pub. Honestly, what it was a marketing campaign for COD Elite. That's what it was.
It was, but it was still
COD Elite
tournament.
is what was just coming out, and that was how you like qualified for the tournament because you were playing pubs online. You were able to track all your stats on COD Elite, and like I remember Stainville was playing. Like you had to qualify through like top something in domination pubs.
They had like
TDM
contracts
pubs.
and stuff too on it.
Yeah. And it was like, it was just a grind. Like I remember like
It
T
was, but
was
it was
playing
still
nonstop.
a tournament. So
Yeah,
that
but there
was still,
wasn't
I think,
like
the first time we had
devs
interaction
being
with
involved in
devs.
rule sets though.
Well, no.
Like-
Yeah, you're right. But I'm saying the first time we got involved with like devs, and like they probably, I'm assuming, had conversations to a degree with the devs about the whole like esports stuff. I don't know. Just saying that could probably have been that. Dude, we don't know.
I know what you're talking
I
about though,
wasn't there.
James. I know what you're thinking of. You're thinking of, it was MW3. It wasn't Ghost. It was when like Merc and Stainville and Hastro, they were at like this little what was that?
Dude,
It was basically a pre-COD XP show match thing. It was definitely Merc. Maybe it was Big Timer. It was for Modern Warfare 3 though. It wasn't for Ghost. It couldn't have been Ghost, James, because we all were at ESWC for Black Ops 2 right before Ghost came out, and my Complexity team flew straight from Paris to LA to do a launch stream with Machinima for Ghost, and it was like the game came out right after the tournament. Like
Weren't
it
you
was
guys doing like the race or some shit.
yeah, bro. We did the Prestige race.
yeah.
OpTic did it. There was a bunch of people who did the Prestige
T
race.
Martin and all them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was iconic.
I don't remember AW playing the game early, but I do know a bunch of AW devs were, and this was back when actually Dr. Disrespect, when he was just Guy Beam.
Yeah.
He was working at AW. Him, Tony Flame, God, these names are gonna come back to me. They were actually at MLG Anaheim because obviously they lived. Treyarch is in Santa Monica, so they were not far. They came out to MLG Anaheim during COD Ghost. There was some conversations had there. But again, it was very dev dependent. Like I think Treyarch did a really good job over the years of being as involved as they could. Sledgehammer also kind of contributed. AW was the first title obviously they had worked on, and they had came out for Ghost, and then they actually invited a bunch of players out. Chris, did you go to that, to San Francisco to do the World War II
No.
playtest? That was when Rambo worked at Sledge for World War II. That year he spent working at Sledgehammer. They flew a bunch of us out to San Fran to playtest World War II. Other than that, IW flew out Merc and TP and Maven and I think a few other people to like playtest IW.
I flew out for any of that shit. They didn't like me, bro. I used to cook the games.
That was for Infinite Warfare. And then it got pretty common after that. I would say like post 2018, like it was basically they were flying out pro players every year.
Now it's getting less and less common.
But dude, Modern Warfare 19 was the worst. It was like there was like 16 of us, I think, that went out to LA for 3 days. And we didn't even go to IW studio in Calabasas. We went to Activision studio in Santa Monica, and we played. It was hilarious. We basically were in like the basement of Activision, and there was no IW dev there. It was KC. Do you remember KC? He worked
MLG.
Yeah, but he worked at Activision for he's not there anymore, but he worked at Activision a few years doing the like basically head of like League Ops. It wasn't League Ops. It was, I forgot what it was called. Johanna was there. There's a few other like ex-MLG employees that were now Activision employees. But there was not a single IW dev in the room. And it was like, I remember it was me, Slasher, Slacked, Enabled, JCap, Krim was there. We were testing Modern Warfare 19 a few months early. And dude, we spawned in on some of these maps, and there was like 20 hills on hardpoint, like 20 hardpoint hills. And we're like, dude, none of this is going to work. We played Ramaza, and there was like 30 hill. It was just bad. And we actually did a lot of feedback. Like we had, it sucked because there was no devs in the room. So we were basically pen and papering all of the issues. And to this day, and I will stand by this, not a single IW developer saw anything we did in that room. I stand by that to this day, because there was like a lot of constructive stuff that like honestly was must fixes. That I assumed, the rest of us in that room assumed were gonna be changed, because it wasn't like. And now that I'm on the dev side of things with Ubisoft, like I understand some of these changes we were asking for are very simple changes, like quality of life, very simple, not anything to do with game mechanics. Like it was mostly map and hill related and spawn issues or S&D bomb site issues, things that are just super fixable. Nothing was addressed, and we thought that it was going to be addressed like in the Call of Duty had that patch cycle. It was like basically the big patch would come like a month in or 2 months in. Nothing changed. And we were all just like, wow, like not a single thing that we spent 3 days, 8 hours a day writing literally pen to paper feedback with like Activision, heads of the Call of Duty League. Nothing was done. And that was kind of a spit in the face, and to me that was kind of like my moment. And this was right when CDL was starting, where I was like, this isn't gonna be the same.
Yeah. Now I guess one final question, and this kind of goes for the both of you on that same topic. If you guys could like control how that relationship was moving forward in terms of like a game releasing, because I think it's still an issue for a lot of people, because the competitive season usually doesn't start until a good amount of time after the launch of the game. And this was one of the quickest turnarounds we've had this year. What do you think that they can do ahead of time to like make not only the season like more acceptable to start earlier because there's a competitive rule set, but also like make the game where it should be at release?
Players have to be involved in alpha, pre-alpha.
People have to be involved literally when the COD releases. We have to already be talking about the new COD with the devs. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Bro, I'll be honest, like and obviously, I have a unique position now where I went from having a pro player career to now I'm working with Ubisoft on an upcoming first-person shooter. But some of these players could, I'm not saying current players, but like some of these past players could easily be involved in these studios, like being hired on. I when I first started, it was just a gameplay consultant role. I was just for a few hours being involved, discussions, play testing, stuff like that. And that was very pre-alpha. I think, I think other game, studios, game developing studios should do that. There's invaluable feedback like that pro players have that bring a completely different, take on the game and look at the game completely different. That would massively help these studios and the development of these titles. I've honestly, for years, I mean, this goes back to like when I started, like there's just no reason that these dev teams cannot make time for that. Like to me, it's such an easy thing. And now being on this side of it, I kind of see both perspectives, and it's totally a doable thing. I mean, you can, even if it's just playtesting, you sign some of these players to NDAs, or even, like I said, mentioned signing them on as gameplay consultants, like, and you work with them, even if it's just to gauge feedback. It's a different audience that brings a different view on the game, and you can decide whether it's helpful or not helpful. But there's definitely room in the budget, because it's not a lot. It would not take a lot to make that happen. But yeah, it just has to happen early enough, because you get to a point where when it's happening at launch, like the earliest you're going to see those changes that are happening at launch is 6 months later in the actual game. And so it just has to happen soon enough to where the feedback can actually be implemented if it's feedback worth implementing. But that's literally the only way. It's just it has to be done, and it has to be wanted by the studios, right? Like if the studios don't want or care for this opinion or feedback or whatever, then there's no point even having this conversation, which I think is what we've struggled with over the years, is going on the yearly release, right? We go from IW to Treyarch to Sledge. Well, some years IW just will not care. They don't care about competitive. It's a headache to them. It's being pushed by Activision to like have a viable product. But then you go to Treyarch and there's amazing people there. You know, there's Matt Scrontz. I think he's associate design director now. Super involved. Probably watches all if not a majority of the competitive tournaments. And there's a few people at Sledgehammer that do the exact same thing. That's super involved and passionate about the competitive ecosystem, and it's just about wanting to have that a part of their game, even if it's not the forefront, which I don't think it should be, and I don't think it ever will be. But making it an avenue to where you're at least providing an opportunity for it to be a part of the game is super important. And I believe Tony Flame just left not too long ago. He's at a different title now. He's a major loss because Tony Flame was super passionate about competitive Call of Duty. Yeah. And I think over the years, there's been people that have kind of left and came. And, again, that kind of adds to that. Well, some studios care and some just don't. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest challenge facing Call of Duty as a whole right now for competitive.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I love doing these extended podcasty segments where I get to pick these guys' brain, and hopefully you guys do too. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're like 300 subs away from the next giveaway. Next week, we'll be doing a bracket episode and building our perfect bracket. That's probably not going to be perfect. And
did we have Ultra winning
last episode? No.
Last time?
No,
was it
I
FaZe?
picked Ultra, and you guys outvoted me.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you guys, you just don't ever listen. I don't know.
So you're picking OpTic next for this next one, right, Pat?
I haven't decided yet. I'm 25% on each team right now, so we're gonna have to see after next weekend.
I think if OpTic wins their next game or Thieves beats, I think if Thieves beats Ultra, I'm gonna pick Thieves. If OpTic wins but Thieves loses, I'm gonna pick OpTic.
Okay.
I think I'm between those two. But also I think the bracket's gonna play a major part
in how it comes down.
If FaZe continue to win hard points, I think I might pick them.
There's a chance one of these teams plays like Ultra first round.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be hell in a cell.
Yeah.
OpTic Ultra first round, you heard it.
Well, we will find out after next weekend of matches. Again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, comment, any community questions you want to get involved with, all that good stuff. And we will see you again next week.
Deuces.
Later.
No way you said deuces, too.
I did, dude.
Damn it.